Welcome, everyone. I am Yandea, and this is Love Story. Joining me today are my wonderful sisters, Kesley and Janie, and we have a special series going on right now, which is Love Before the Fall. And we are now on episode 3. And episode 3, I think, I think it's going to end up being one of my favorite episodes because we are talking about the blinders that have been engineered, the tricks and the plays and the plots. So I'm really looking forward to, getting feedback in the comment section. I'm going to be looking off to the side somewhat, throughout just making sure that we're seeing the questions and any comments. But family, thank you for joining us today, this evening. I'm just gonna check in with the ladies and just, let them tell us how their week has been before we get into this. So Janie, you could go first. What energetically, what have you felt this week? What has it been like?
I think like we was talking right before we got on, endings and beginnings for this week, but I had a really, really productive week, really productive, especially today. Today was one of the most productive days of all
Yeah.
the whole week. So yeah.
Yes, yes. What about you, Kez?
Very similar. It was things that I had, along with my husband, been working on, sort of manifesting, calling in for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they fell into place this week. Um, and then just a lot of big shifts internally. I think just doing this podcast has brought up a lot. Whenever you sign up to sort of put yourself and your thoughts out there, especially something as personal as love and relationships and beliefs and all of this, it creates a lot of big shifts. So I've been just doing my very best to embrace growth and new levels of awareness and consciousness and ideas, and just really sitting in my flame, as we like to call it, Yandea, like just
In that
really
flame.
embracing so many things. So it was a huge, huge, huge week on so many levels.
Yeah, yeah. I feel the same. Just so many things like revelations and uh we I was led to do a 7-day fast, water
Wow.
fast. Yeah. And so today is the last day.
Congratulations. That's something to celebrate.
Yeah,
Congrats.
today is the last day, and it was all same thing. I felt like with all the productivity, with all of the closings and openings, it was like I needed to be very much in that, sitting in that flame, right? Because I need to be very much like in there and releasing. For me, imagine like all this time with you guys already know, like experiencing the miscarriages and so on and so forth. It's like as women, we hold that. Even if we mentally may, be okay or we say we're okay, but our body sometimes is grieving what didn't happen and we hold that what's it called? Cortisol, right?
Mhm.
And so I had to do a fast to release myself, release my body of what it no longer can support, you know? And so that fast was all about just, releasing all of that and being open to new life and everything new. So I'm right on there with you guys. It definitely was a very powerful week for us. And my husband, so sweet, he joined me on this fast. So the two of us, it was the best fast I've ever done in my life. I even up to today, I mean, so I'm drinking some coconut water now, but it was like I was saying to him, like, this has been I did not feel hungry. It was like I can't even believe it was 7 days have gone past. And when you're doing a fast led by spirit, really led by spirit, that's how it is. You are
Yeah.
like it's so in alignment. And I personally don't want to eat. I was saying to him, like, I'm actually really good, because of the benefits that I've seen, in my body and in my clarity of mind and all of that stuff. So it's a special fast that I did for my womb specifically. And I think I'll make that available, for other women to experience and to have. It was deep. It was deep. We could talk about that all the things I experienced, you know.
Wow.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, and it's amazing because this is the last day, and we're doing this, removing the blinders, and I feel like totally clear.
That's
You know, totally clear. Yes. So, I want to say hi, Dwayne. I see you on there. If you're watching, guys, please let us know, you know, in the comments, just let us know who you are or where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, I mean, like I said, the title today is Blinders Engineered. Okay, they didn't just happen by chance. They've been engineered. They've been engineered strategically. We're going to talk about the tricks and the plays and the plots. We're removing the blinders today. So we're going to get started. But before we jump into it, Kez, I would like you to just lead us into, you know, just bring us centered and do the good stuff that you do.
perfect. I would love to. So this is going to be just a very short meditation, closed eye exercises with a little bit of breath work to help all of us, because I know even if you're multitasking right now, right, there's still a level of intention and presence that we need to bring to topics that are this deep. So I want to invite everyone just to really come into alignment and to create a space, an opening. So you can just gently close your eyes. And for this particular meditation, what I'd like you to do is place both hands right at the center of your chest. And this is the area of the body that we call the heart chakra. So a little bit different position from the physical heart, but it's in alignment with our 7 chakras, our 7 energy centers. So what we're doing tonight is we're going to clear and cleanse and open our energy using one of the most powerful tools that we have in order to do that, and that is our breath. So I want everyone just to start by taking a long, slow, deep breath in, breathing into the lower belly. And when you're ready, release. Very good. So that first breath was just to bring us into the body, out of the external and into the internal. Take a couple deep breaths, long, slow, deep breaths on your own time. But as you do that, think of taking your awareness and starting to just tune it inward. What sensations come up for you? What emotions come up for you? Are there any particular areas of the body where you feel tightness or tension? And if there are, just imagine that you can bring light and breath to that area to release. Now we're going to do some focus on specific areas of the body that we can use to move us out of a stress state and into a relaxed state very, very quickly. I want you to focus on relaxing the area at the base of the spine. Take a couple of breaths, just focusing on relaxing and releasing any tension that you're holding at the base of the spine, the area that we call the root chakra. And next, I want you to think about dropping your shoulders down and away from your ears and opening up through the heart space, relaxing your neck and your shoulders. This is where a lot of us carry tension, especially if we're types of people who tend to carry others' weights, the weight of the world on our shoulders. We tend to really carry a lot of tension in this area of the neck and the shoulders. Another deep breath, and we're going to relax the jaw. Sometimes where we carry resentment or anger, frustration, a lot of those low vibration emotions can show up in the jaw area. Relax the corners of the eyes and the forehead. And on the next breath, I want you to focus on breathing in and expanding through the chest to really open up that heart area. Let's breathe in together for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're going to exhale for 8 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. When we make our exhale longer than our inhale, that once again is how we drop deeper into that state of relaxation. And now that the body, the physical body, is nice and relaxed, we can start to create an opening. So now that we've got some warmth in the chest, you can take your hands and you can place them gently on your lap. And on the next inhale, I want you to set the intention of bringing in love. Filling that heart up with unconditional love. And take a deep exhale and release any resistance, any beliefs that are stopping you from really and truly receiving love and self-love. And on the next breath, I want you to focus on bringing in openness, an open mind, an open heart to what it is that you are meant to receive tonight. And on the next intentional exhale, releasing any resistance, any limiting beliefs, anything that might be holding you back from your next level and your deepest heart's intention for tuning in tonight. And on the last inhale that we're going to do together, I want you to take a nice, long, deep inhale and inhale a sense of peace, a sense of softness, of softening the heart and the spirit, creating space for the new. And once again, on the exhale, releasing any resistance, any weight, any heaviness. Now I want you to tune into the body one last time. Tune into that heart chakra and feel the warmth, feel the new vibration, feel the lightness and the openness that you have created tonight. The heart chakra is our center for love, for unconditional love for ourselves and for others. And may tonight be an opportunity for you to love more deeply. And so it is. When you're ready, you can start to wiggle your fingers and your toes, and on your own timing, gently open your eyes. Thank you very much.
And so it is.
So I'm just gonna sleep for this. For the rest of this episode, I'm just gonna be here. No, that was super relaxing, especially like the kind of day that I had, out since early. And honestly, I'm so happy that we did this because I feel great. How do you feel, Janie?
I feel great. I had a lot of time today in nature. Sorry, guys. I had a lot of time today out in nature, so I had full intention on being present during this time. So I spent a lot of time. So I feel really, really good. So that was like the icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah. So thanks, Kesley. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for
good.
the opportunity. It's so powerful to do a group meditation versus doing it on your own, because you can just feel that collective energy being created. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks for anyone who joined us online as well.
I'm sure that we're gonna get some, not just Janie and I, but a lot of other people who will really appreciate what you just shared. So I think I'm gonna have to do that all the time, girl. Because
Happy
I know personally for me, like Sundays are very busy, and I
Mhm.
come into here, and it's just so nice to have, you know, that time to breathe together. It's one thing, like you said, you could do it on your own, but when you do it together, you know, it's really nice, especially for those who are tuning in with us, you know, just to all come together like that is really good. So, okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Now we're gonna
So
crank up the heat. Here we go.
now that
Now
you
here
guys are
comes the
all
heaviness.
comfortable, here it comes, here it comes. Blindness engineered, the tricks, the plays, the plots. There has been blindness on this earth, and it didn't begin with ignorance, guys. It was designed. It was designed from education, religion, culture, gender, right? Medical system, all of it. It has definitely been something that was designed, and you know, some of it has a little bit of truth in it, but for the majority it's all been mingled, right? And that mingling, even if it's a little bit, it's enough to cause blindness, right? So in this episode we are going to talk about this engineering of blindness, and I don't know if we'll get all the way into who did it, who caused it, right? But it's not necessarily to really, we don't necessarily need to know the who as much as we need to realize that the blindness is here, and what exactly have we been blinded, you know, from seeing, right? And what is the result of this blindness? So we want to talk about this thing. It's kind of in the background, it's kind of silent. Most people don't even realize it. We want to make it a reality, right? I'm going to talk about the systems. Janie is, I think, so Janie is more with the medical, right? Janie, all of us have different things that we're, you know, that we dabble in, different things that we are specialists in, right? But I know I think between Kez and I, Janie would have seen more of the medical system from a practitioner, right, sis? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I'm a licensed family nurse practitioner in
Yes.
the
So
United States. In the
yes.
United States. I want to say that because I know we're kind of all in different places. But I'm
Yes.
in the United States, yeah.
Right. And I know Kesley's into wellness also, and I am also into wellness. I focus more on, well, physical, but more spiritual. That's where my expertise are in. And so I feel like I want to start off with the medical side. I feel really like I want to get into this conversation with the wellness, right, sis? So do you mind if we start with that, and then we could
Yeah,
tap into
sure.
other things? We could tap into the other areas, but I feel like that's just such a big, you know, something that something that everybody watching, right, can relate to, because we've all been sick, we've all gone to a doctor at least once, maybe even when we were younger. So wellness is universal.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Where have you experienced the blindness?
that's a good question. Um, to be honest, I
Yeah.
would say that the blindness would fall on the patient, okay?
Okay.
Because what I have seen is so many people give up their power to providers without doing their own research, without, reading up on a diagnosis, without saying, what could I do at home?
Right.
I've seen that the blindness falls in the hands of us.
Yeah.
And it's so, and I've seen this, I've seen so many people, want to project so many things on the healthcare system. But when we look at this collectively, we created this dis-ease, this bad health, especially in the United States. I can't speak for any other country because this is where I live, this is where I practice.
Yeah.
But as a collective, we created this. It's
Mm-hmm.
us. So it is up to us to recreate health and wellness, true
Yeah.
health and wellness. So I would say that's one part of it is that, you cannot give up your own power to anyone. You shouldn't just blindly believe anyone without just doing some research, getting a second opinion, and going within and saying, you know what, I like this idea. I like what this provider have given me. Let's go with it. And you're never, you don't have to feel like you're rushed to make decisions. You don't ever have to do that. So, and then I also want to share that we're all conscious beings. So even as a provider in the healthcare system, you are still dealing with another human being. We're not gods. We're not playing the role of the
I
one
understand.
God. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
We are human flaws. We study according to certain curriculums that we have to maintain our licensure because there is law and order and we have to follow that. So I'm just saying that the power lies within you,
yeah,
and you should always know that, and you should move with that first.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you are not getting the treatment that you know you should be getting, move on. Go
yeah.
somewhere else until you're heard.
Yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. I mean, um, I took my health into my own hands a long, long time ago.
And
I mean,
that's the
yeah,
secret.
a long time ago. I could literally, the last time I had and let me say the disclaimer. Nothing we say here that we're speaking about this medical, I have to say it, right? We
Yeah.
are not telling you have a doctor, don't have a doctor, anything like that. We are sharing our experience. We are not telling anyone what they should do or shouldn't do. We're not giving any advice as far as medical advice. We are only speaking from what we have observed, what we have experienced, and that's it, right? Take what we share, pray about it, meditate about it, research it. This is what we're saying, that we are sovereign and we should research. Even if somebody is talking to you on YouTube, a doctor, anybody, you should realize that if you decide to just believe what they say without looking into it, that's on you. That's on you, right? Yes, they went to school to become this and that, but at the end of the day, they're human, which means they can forget. They could have not paid attention to a certain thing, which is what you're coming to them for. They could have ulterior motives because they are human. Being human doesn't mean that your heart is clear and your mind is clear,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Humans have ulterior motives, right? And sometimes their motives are good to help you regardless, and sometimes they're just negligent because guess what? Sometimes they could have their own things on their mind. They could be absent-minded, dealing with their own stresses, right? Their own issues. And so that day, you're not a priority and they may miss something. So many scenarios. So you
Yeah.
have to just realize that, right? Janie, I love what you shared. Like I was saying, I have not had a doctor. Last time I had an actual doctor, I was pregnant with my son who's now 23 years old. And then after him, I've had midwives. Not even after him. I had the same midwives while I was pregnant with him, but I've never had another doctor since. I do have a friend who is a physician, and I have all intentions of becoming his patient. I just haven't had a reason to. And I think that's kind of been a thing, but it is on my list just because I don't think all doctors are bad,
No.
right? I don't think
We
all
couldn't
doctors,
say that, yeah, because then we
yeah,
would be being very judgmental and we would be
exactly,
having a
exactly.
narrow lens.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think most people want to do well by the people they serve. I think
mm-hmm,
most people in the medical field want to do well by the clients they serve. There's
yeah,
so many things that go into a 30 to 45-minute office visit. So many things. I
yeah,
usually tell people that, providers are putting together a picture according to what you're presenting with, what you're coming in for the complaint. And they're trying to gather your medical history. They're trying to gather what you're actively, going through right now and trying to give you the best solution to get you well right now. Okay.
right, right,
And it's to get you so is not to you have to take care of your own health.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to go anywhere unless something is wrong.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I can jump in on that to tag on to what Janie is saying. I'm similar to Yandea in that I tend to go a more holistic route and self-heal to the extent possible, or work with mainly holistic practitioners. I did have a situation a couple of years ago where I went into the hospital to have a particular procedure that was something that I had to do. Basically, I didn't have a choice. Let's just say that. And to your point about standing firm or taking matters into your own hands with your health, I really give the medical providers that I worked with in that situation a ton of credit, because I do agree. Like, they are doing their very best to serve you within the system that is in place, right? So there were particular drugs that they believed that I needed based on the outcome that we all wanted, which was a safe procedure. And I kept pressing them for alternatives. I was like, no, this is my line. This is my boundary. I'm not putting this into my body. What else can we do? And it literally took an entire day, but they stood by me. When I stood my ground and pushed the envelope past what was the normal protocol, they found ways to work with me. And I was so impressed with the level of care and empathy and like humans helping humans that I encountered. I agree with you. I think that most people, no matter what industry you work in, we can talk about corporate America. I've worked in the oil and gas industry. We can talk about the medical industry. We can talk about, education system, whatever it is. I think people go into these professions because they genuinely want to do well for people, make a good living, and make the world a better place. So I agree. Like, it is, the system sometimes maybe have its flaws, but like at the end of the day, we're all humans. And when we stand in our power, other humans will want to respect and help other humans. So it was really powerful for me to see,
Yeah.
what's possible.
And that's great. And it's also the flip side of that, right? You have people who are very holistic and could be dying and need life-saving measures, but have this fear of the medical system as well. And they don't want to render that care. And I've seen that happen. So you have to, on both sides, what's your intention? Is it fear? Either way.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I've seen it both ways. So, and I like that you said that it's a system.
Yeah.
And the humans are in the system. The system have policies. The system have ways of doing things. The system it's a business. There's so many things about the system. The system markets. It's a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I said, if you could make a real connection with your provider and they're listening to you and they're present with you and they are giving you different ways of healing and treatment, I think you should go with that. Listen to what you feel. If you're not being heard, nope, you take this, I don't want to hear nothing else. That may not be the provider for you. And we have in the medical field, I think 2020 showed us a lot. I think all of my colleagues would say that as well. There's a lot to be done in the medical field, but the truth is, it starts with you individually.
Right.
It doesn't matter what system it is. It's what you're there to do and how you're there to serve the people that you're serving.
I like that.
Yeah.
I have to, as you were talking, Kesley, it really hit me because I think I never thought about that, like my experience. And you all know about, I've shared so many times on here, other places about the NDE, right? And in the beginning of this, I shared about releasing that pain of having a miscarriage and how you hold it in your body. Well, when I went to the hospital and I said, hey, I'm having contractions, I'm pregnant, they're this many 2 minutes apart, right? This is not supposed to be happening right now. It was like crickets, right? Emergency. I'm in the emergency with my husband, like crickets. We waited for 3.5 hours before someone came to see me.
Mhm.
So we're talking about the system.
Mhm.
3.5 hours before they put me into a room. And as soon as I got into the room, I had the miscarriage, right? The doctor comes in, and this was her, I'm not kidding. The doctor comes in, hey, everyone, how are you doing? And then she looks and she sees, because I was laying on the bed, and she sees, oh, when did that happen? Literally, when did that happen? And I'm like, it just happened, right? And so she was just the care, without getting into details about it. I asked her, can you see the baby? This woman was so like, was it afraid? Was it disgusted by all of the blood, all of everything that she was seeing? But the way I felt as a woman with another woman coming in, seeing me in that state, and being like, I don't want to look. You're a doctor. You're supposed to be, what do you mean? You're an emergency. And so I said to her, is the baby there? Intuitively, I knew the baby was still inside of me. I asked her, is the baby there? Oh, you wouldn't be able to know. You wouldn't be able to tell. She called it the product. That's what they referred to the baby as, the product. And I was like, the product? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm a human being, I'm a mother, and I've just experienced probably one of the hardest things a mother can experience. And you're referring to this as a product. And then I asked her again, and I said, listen, I've had a miscarriage before, earlier than this, and I could tell eyes, ears, nose, I could have clearly seen I'm like, no, and this was a way earlier miscarriage. So I'm like, there's no way that you're telling me you wouldn't be able to detect the difference between placenta, blood clot, and fetus. There's absolutely no way. This woman refused to examine me. She told me I'd have to come back the next day. Okay, what can I say? I can't see inside myself. I don't have ultrasound machines. I don't have it, right? I have to come back the next day. Fine. So she said, I'll send someone in to clean you up, to give you stuff to clean up. A nurse came in, brought me water and stuff. I cleaned up. And then it was this time when I went into the washroom that I started passing out, right? Couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel my feet. Came out, collapsed into my husband's arms. You guys probably know the story. Got home. I kept bleeding. I lost 40% of blood. The ambulance had to come rush me back to the hospital. Obviously, at home is where I had the whole closer to life experience, not near death, right? Closer to life experience. But by the time I got back to the hospital, they brought me to the same hospital, and it was another doctor. And this doctor said to me, even the paramedics were like, why did they send you home? Like, you shouldn't have been sent home. Why didn't they check you? The paramedics were even saying that this whole procedure that we're talking about, nothing went according to procedure. Whatever happened to me, nothing went according to it. And so the second doctor, I said, I'm passing blood clots, and I showed her the size. And she was surprised. I said, and my husband said, yeah, she walked out the room. I had another passing. It felt like I was just delivering baby after baby after baby. And instead it was just massive. You know what I mean? Any woman seeing that would probably faint in terror. I'm not kidding with you, right? And I could just feel myself getting weaker and weaker. Anyhow, this doctor, when she came back, I said to my husband, no, keep it right here so she could see it. So this is now when I'm like, I'm following my intuition. I'm like, you know what? I have to stand up for myself. And so she came in, and I said, do you want to see the thing that I'm talking about? When she saw it, this woman's face was like, and this is the third time she's asking me, and no one examined you? I said, no one examined me. She goes, do you mind if I check? I said, what do we, go ahead and check. She checked, and she said, the baby is right there. So the baby was lodged in my cervix. which is what was the confusion and why I was bleeding out, bleeding to death. She removed the baby, bleeding subsided greatly. I had to get so much iron. I had to get, you get what I'm saying? Like, this is terrible. So one doctor, totally dismissive, negligent. The other doctor, it's almost like she couldn't believe that I was saying I was not checked, because that should have happened. So finally, I had to get the proof out of my body to show her, hey, this is what's happening. And then she was like, wow, you're not exaggerating. Because the size, I was telling her how much blood, it kind of seems a little bit, maybe she's exaggerating. But when she saw it for herself, she was like, no. And it's not even difficult to research and see how women who have miscarriages hemorrhage. It's usually because there is product, okay, lodged in their cervix, which is not causing, it's not even something difficult to know. So obviously they must have known that, right? So I have experienced, you know, in the same hospital within 24 hours, one doctor that was totally whatever, and the other one who, you know, I thank God for that woman all the time. You know what I mean? Because it was so low. I don't even know, I dropped. I came into the hospital at 144 something, and then I was already at like 70. You know what I mean? In like no time. So I was way below anemic level, right? This is kind of what I want to say. If I didn't persist, if my husband wasn't, you know, if we weren't on that same page, you get what I'm saying? And just allowed for them to keep wondering, you know what I mean, what's happening, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't be here today. And so we have to realize that you have to care for yourself more than anybody else. You have to you have to have that concern. You cannot depend on someone to love you and care about your health more than you.
Yeah.
You can't. And that could even bring us right into, if you guys don't want to talk about it, it's okay, but I will. That brings us right into the topic of being injected with things. Being injected with things, taking medication, any sort, any medication, whether it be orally or being injected into your body, whether it's for yourself or for your children. Do your research, right? Find the ingredients, what's being put into my body. If there is no ingredients, there's a problem. If you cannot know, because when I walk down the grocery aisle, and I've taught my children this from the time they know to read, we walk down the grocery aisle, they'll pick up whatever. If it has certain ingredients, they put it down. They know all the things that shouldn't be in their food. They look at it, and especially if it's something that looks a color, or this or that, you know what I'm saying? They already know all of these things. Or if they don't know, they'll say, Mom, can we have this? Look, I don't know this word, right? So I've trained my children the importance of reading what you're putting into, read and understand what you're putting into your body before you do it. So when it comes to medication, if we don't have the same care for medication, any kind, injectables or whatever, as we do for even our own food, then who is it to blame? If we're diseased, if we're poisoned, can we really keep saying the government, the system, the medical, you know, big farm, but you can read, you can research. This is the time of technology. I mean, you could ask Chat GPT.
Yeah.
you can ask Chat GPT like, hey, this ingredient, is it harmful for me? What are the negative side effects of this ingredient? And it will tell you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we underestimate as humans, so my husband and I do a lot of wellness speaking, right?
Yeah.
And we talk to people about nutrition, and we give them health hacks, you know, holistic health hacks that can change their life, as we like to say. And it's easier to want to take something and put it in our body than to stop doing something, right? It's easier to take the pill of whatever type that is, or the injection, whatever it is, than it is to say, hey, what's the most natural, holistic way I could get there, and what lifestyle changes would I have to make? It's easier to put something in than it is to take something away, right? I think a lot of us can admit that. But anytime we put something in our body that is foreign to our body and not of nature itself, there will be risks to that. Like, did you know that even food that's cooked elicits a slight stress response from our body, right? I know that's a very sounds crazy because most of us cook the majority of our food, but anything that's not like of nature is going to have side effects. And I think that's just something that we need to, it's a tough pill to swallow, right? Pun intended, but it's something we definitely have to be conscious of when we're making choices for our body.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough, educate, 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 educate. Educate yourself, educate your kids, educate your families, as much as possible. If you're gonna go to a healthcare provider, speak to them, ask them questions, and make sure your questions are answered. And like I said, wait until you feel comfortable, with whatever they're recommending. And you can always get a second, third, fourth, fifth, opinion. But education is the key, and educating yourself and your family, because we are responsible for ourselves. And that's
Yeah.
just the truth.
Yeah.
We're responsible for our own finances. We could give all of our finances to our accountant, and if they make a mistake, whose fault was that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't think about that because, it's I'm in the medical field. I know that there's very trusted, very high ethical, high moral people in the industry. I know that. I work alongside with them.
Yeah.
But what people don't see is the train wrecks that we have to fix because people have not taken care of themselves for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then they come with all of that. And all you can do is just help you kind of stay where you're at, stay stable,
Yeah.
and it's because there has been a lack of true health and wellness in the country, okay,
Yeah.
in the United States. And I keep saying that. So, because I can't speak for anywhere else, there's a true lack of what real health and real wellness is. And it has a lot to do what we take in, but I could guarantee you that you could eat super, super healthy, but if you are angry, if
Yeah.
you have unforgiveness in your heart,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you have regrets,
Yeah.
all of it doesn't matter how well you're eating. You could be on the best diet, working out every day, but if you have all of that blockage in your heart, you'll probably get heart disease.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I'm like, when you think of, so we're talking about the blinders, right?
Yeah,
Uh, when you think of the fear that
fear.
I've had a lot of people come to me, different things, different diagnoses or whatever, and they will say, but my whoever it is said that if I don't take that, this is what will happen to me. Like, okay, we're still in the medical. Let's talk about women, right? I'm a doula, right? One of the things that I do is doula work. And um, the women who I've gotten calls. I'm not even at the hospital. I've gotten calls from people who know that I'm a doula, and they're with family members who are giving birth, and they're like, Yan, this is what was said. This is
Mhm.
what they're telling. This is what they're telling us, Yan. And I'm like, well, let me give you the facts. Da da
Yeah,
da da da.
yeah.
Whatever. And I'm like, these are her rights. And so the baby, if this and this is not happening, the baby's fine. And so you have a choice to either continue with your birth plan or go down the road of fear to be able to fund what they're trying to get funded. Because the fact of the matter is that our bodies, women, our bodies are designed to give birth. It is. We have all of the chemicals that will cause us to have pain-free births. But if you are going to have practitioners around you who are coming from, like I said, have ulterior motives, who don't want to spend the extra hour calming you, making sure, because there's a next birth and there's a next thing. Or if it's more beneficial for them to have, you have a C-section. right? If it's more beneficial that way, if it saves time and gets more money, and oh well, you have to heal, it'll be harder, but you'll be out of there, right? Then it's better for them. So you have to know what is in my best interest. What is in my best interest? And how do I make sure I communicate that? I tell all women before you go into the hospital, if I'm not there, make sure you have your birth plan written out. Make sure you have, I tell their husbands, listen, she's going to be in another zone. You have to make sure. It's on you to make sure all of these things that she wants gets met. All of them. You have to press. It doesn't matter what you call me if you need to call me, but it doesn't matter what they say to you. This is how she wants to deliver that baby. And unless there is some emergency thing that's happening, then no. And guess what? All of these women have had their babies, no C-section. Like I literally, as soon as we get off the phone, I say, here are the things you could do to stimulate. Here are the things you could do to make this baby come. And they do it. And it's like, hey, and the baby's here, or a text, thank you so much, whatever. So if this is just me at home, giving a few words of wisdom, what's really going on? Why aren't women being empowered? You're going to a place to have your baby. Why is it that the person who's working there in that department is not equipped to empower you to do what you came there to do with as little intervention as possible? Could it be because intervention is the way that benefits them? And if intervention is the way that benefits them, then we have a conflict of interest. Then you're going to people to help you who have a benefit for not helping you. They benefit by helping you in the way that benefits them most, which is actually not in your best interest. So women need to be educated on that. And that's one of the things, like you said, you can't really blame anybody because it's out there. There's YouTube videos, there's webinars, you could go to any natural, midwife or doula, whatever the case is, and they'll give you all the facts, right? You could read books about it. There's so many testimonies, like it's out there. So the question is, why don't you love yourself enough to take your health and wellness into your own hands, to make it your business?
And believe in yourself and your own power, right? Like I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying about birth, and it's very personal for me because, as I shared last time, when I got pregnant with my daughter, I immediately thought, okay, I'll go to a doctor because that's what you do when you're pregnant. All the alternatives of a free birth, a birth with a midwife, a birth with a doula, like I had never explored any of that. And so as I leaned into the idea of doing a home natural birth, I started to listen to a lot of different podcasts and things about the birth experience. And I had never thought of it as an empowerment opportunity, as a coming of age, as a stepping into what we're truly capable of doing as divine feminine beings. I had never thought of it that way. But one of the phrases that I heard, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but it was the manufactured crisis of birth.
Yes.
That hit me so deeply because I was like, our bodies are built to bring babies into the world. Our organs move all the way. And to your point, Yandea, our hormones, do all the right things. And we produce just the right things to be able to do it. And to actually, like, some women do it without pain and actually do it with from a state of bliss, which I think is amazing. My birth wasn't exactly
orgasm,
that,
with
but
orgasm.
Orgasmic birth, exactly. And it's like, again, taking it into your own hands, yes, but also like through this journey of the physical body and taking that seriously, we are becoming like the true God beings, like expressions of God through a human body that we're meant to be through that journey. And I don't think you can delegate that out in any way. I agree. But I mean, I do have a question, Janie. I'm like actually very curious because I have a family member who has been in the medical system and now she's trying some holistic opportunities, is completely confused and bombarded by all the different information and varying information. And this person says this and this person says that, like, not to take it off on a completely different tangent, but throughout, if you have any advice for what people could do if they're completely bombarded, inundated with different information and don't know who to believe and who to trust and what to do. I know we're talking about going within, but like, what do you do when you've got like, multiple voices in your head trying to figure out what's best for your health?
Yeah. So kind of like what we said, you got to get still. You got to kind of get still. And I would say just if it's a lot, because sometimes the mind plays tricks on you as well. Because if you're reading something and if you're emotionally tied to something, that probably means you're running on the emotions, right? I do believe that knowledge is so powerful, right? And we have to be knowledgeable, but you also have to have a level of stillness so that you can know what your body is trying to tell you. So it does go back to that stillness. If you've been taking in all this information, you got to just kind of like, no, like detox. Give it a week, give it 7 days.
Information detox.
Give it an information detox. Because this is the one thing, we are in the age of information. And if you don't know who you are going to be pulled in every direction. So this is a critical time to know who you are.
Must.
Age of information.
Yeah, definitely. I wanna say to that, Janie, like being in the medical field, I touched on it a little bit, but we say like, okay, what you're putting into your body, even the whole process of going through the birth, when you go to the doctor or you go to your midwife, you're going to be asked, do you want to, we recommend an ultrasound at this point and at this point. And so you could have it at this point and this point and this point too, right? Find out, what are the dangers of ultrasound? What is the safe amount of ultrasound to have? Maybe just do the ultrasounds that are mandatory. When I say mandatory, like you would want to know, maybe perhaps you don't have to do any, but you could actually, and some women don't know.
Did you know that's a choice?
You don't even know, you don't even have to have any ultrasounds.
Yeah, like you always have a choice. And I think that's where
you always have a choice. Yes.
That's where empowerment comes from. Because people think they don't have a choice. Oh, I do have to have my baby in the hospital. Oh,
you don't have to.
You always have a choice. You don't have to get no medication. You don't have to get no vaccines. You don't have to get nothing that's recommended. You always have a choice. You always could say, I decline. I don't want whatever. You always have a choice. And I think knowing that you have a choice is where the empowerment really comes from.
Yes.
And that, I think we could apply that to everything, right? Knowing I could walk away. I could, from an abusive relationship, knowing, I could just always having a choice.
Yeah. I remember that I went to, just because we mentioned vaccination, I remember that we went away to Punta Cana and we came back and my son had like a rash or something, right? My older son had like a rash. So I said, this isn't looking too good, whatever. I looked at some things, I did some research. I'm like, it may be this or that, but let's go and get it looked at, right? By someone. See, I know I'll do my research, but I'll say, let's get a second opinion. Okay. So let's go and get this checked out. So I brought him to the doctor and the doctor started looking at his hands and everything. And he started saying, oh, seems like you have XYZ. So I said, that can't be because XYZ, whatever he's naming, these are the symptoms, right? And he looked at me like, okay. And then I said, I think it's this. And he goes, oh, no, it can't be that. And I'm like, okay. So he goes out of the room. I'm saying to my son, this is why I don't come to these people, because I always have to go through this thing of, I know what I'm saying. And if you're going to tell me something and it sounds plausible, I'm going to listen to you. But if you're going to tell me something that's out of the park, like I'm not going to sit silent, right? He comes back in and he says, you know what? I think you're right. It is that. I don't know where he went because my son was right here to look at the symptoms. So he says, I think you're right. It is that. Okay, so go to the front. They have your prescription. Go to the front. The prescription is for chickenpox shots. Okay, chickenpox vaccine. So I went back in and I said, how could the prescription be for a chickenpox vaccine? And he says, well, it's obvious he has chicken pox. I said, it obviously cannot be chicken pox, which is not what we spoke about. I'm like, it obviously cannot be chicken pox. And he's like, well, none of your children are vaccinated. That's what he said to me. Well, none of your children are vaccinated, right? You had that, so wherever we had it written on, whatever. I said, none of my children are vaccinated except this one who got the chickenpox vaccine. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, the one child that's vaccinated, whoever got a vaccine is this one, and it was a chickenpox vaccine. Because I was like, I know chickenpox sucks. We're gonna deal with that, right? So
But do you feel he was passing judgment because your other kids was not vaccinated, or?
So here's the problem is this. One, what my son, I just can't remember what it was right now. One, it wasn't chickenpox. He was insisting that it was chickenpox. He told me when he came back that I was right, but what he prescribed was not for what you get what I'm saying?
I got you.
If I did not read that thing and go into what is this, I would have just allowed my son to get whatever was on that paper when we brought it wherever. So one, it wasn't chickenpox, and two, he had previous information about my family, whether we were vaccine, like pro-vaccine or not. He had that information there. And he used that as an opportunity to say, well, your son has chickenpox and you should give him the chickenpox vaccine. Knowing, he didn't say to me, I know you guys are not into vaccines or whatever, but your son does have chickenpox. I really highly recommend you get him vaccinated for chickenpox. He never had that discussion with me. He was like, go to the front and they'll give you your prescription. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So why it was done so sneakily, like, and so when I said to him, can you please look, because chickenpox cannot appear in these areas, and so on and so forth. He goes, oh, I wasn't aware that he had that there also. I wasn't. So then I'm just like, look at this. Like, why do I even have to? What if I was another person? I just keep thinking, what if I was just this mom who didn't read and didn't research stuff? I just felt so sorry for the people who have this type of, like, my grandmother, like, like just these people who just have this, the doctors go to school so they could learn, and they know more than us. So they know more than us in every area concerning health. So whatever they tell us, regardless of what our intuition is saying, regardless of what our body is saying, regardless of what we're experiencing, they're always right.
Yeah.
And so I must push what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking aside, and whatever they're saying trumps that. And I'm saying I experienced over and over and over and over and over again. Every single time I have done that, it's come out very bad, only for me.
Yeah. And I agree. There's a generation of people that have given up their power, when it comes to health and wellness. I know people for sure that have said, I just rather take the medication and then change my diet or do this or do that. So, and at the same time, I serve those people too. So, you meet everybody with where they're at. The only thing I could say, and I think it would go across the board, is that you have to empower yourself. And you have to do that by taking control of your own health. If you have children, your children's health. Your kitchen should be your medicine cabinet. You should have everything in there that is, going to give you good health and that could heal you through your herbs and, what you're taking into your body. And that our system, I think we're good for emergency medicine. If you are having a life-threatening issue, they will save your life. That we have amazing advances in technology and science. And I do believe in that too. I believe that we are so far, in advance. And I think that we should use that when it's appropriate. But for maintenance, for lifestyle,
prevention,
for for every day, that is your responsibility.
That's your responsibility. Yeah. Don't let it pile up.
Yeah.
I want to bring us back around to something that we've uncovered that I just think is important to really enunciate. And that's the theme of what's the theme again, Yandea?
Blindness engineered.
The blinders engineered.
Yes.
So we're giving some very specific examples, and I know we have more, right? But it seems that a theme that I think is important for us to enunciate is the illusion of not having a choice
Yes.
is a huge ploy,
Yes.
right? Whether you're looking at health and to take a shot or not take a shot, or take this or don't take this, or put this in your body or don't, right? Birth at home versus birth in a hospital. You're looking at education, which I know we're going to talk about. You're looking at, you know, what kind of job you have. Like there's so many, but it's this idea that the system has an agenda, and it's given to us on a platter of this is it. This is the choice. This is what everybody does. This is mainstream. And you feel like you're crazy to exercise the alternative options. Because it's like, again, silver platter, here it is. This is what everybody does. This is what a good person does. This is
yes. What you're saying, I want to jump right into that, because everybody, maybe you're watching like, well, you know what, I never really had that birth experience or whatever. You know what we all experienced a little while ago? We all had a choice to take the shot or not, right? To take the shot or not. This is not about you took the shot, yay, you didn't take the shot, whatever. No, it's to show you how we all had a choice.
Yes.
But and over here in Canada, it was almost like you didn't have a choice. The amount of things I had a nurse who lost her job, right? Family, like my brother's ex or whatever, right? But lost her job. She was a nurse. Other people in all industries, right, lost their jobs because they said, well, I don't believe the research. It's not enough. This hasn't been tested enough. I can't read the ingredients. And when I am looking at the papers available, I have concerns, and there's no one to answer these concerns. And on top of it, if I do take this and I experience some sort of issue with it, some adverse reaction, is anyone going to financially support myself or my family while I heal? How will I get treated? Crickets. So for these reasons, a lot of people, they weren't conspiracy theories, they were just thinkers who said, no compensation for my family if I'm injured. I don't know what's actually in this. It's something brand new that we haven't tested enough, right? And also the fact that there's so much propaganda around it, and no one is giving alternatives. See that? No one is giving you the alternatives. That's red flag, right? Because another thing, if the amount of people who this is affecting, who this could affect in a fatal way, is such a small number, and if those of us who are healthy, who could be affected by this disease or whatever, is such a small number, and there are other things that can come into our environment that could be even more fatal, what's all this about? So people had questions. And some people chose, because there were not enough answers to the questions they had, they decided to not get vaccinated. I was one of those people, my whole family. Now we have friends, and I have other family members who chose to, no love lost. But now that time has passed, I've seen people die. I've seen people suffering right now because they had adverse reactions. One lady, two of her son-in-laws, 30 years old and 31 years old, died 1 month apart. She, and of the same thing. I have a friend who's very active. Myocarditis is like the new thing. Everyone has myocarditis. You know what I mean? So blood clots, all of these issues, women passing things that they've never passed before, so all of this is what's happening just in my little around me, you know what I mean? And if you go into even looking at some of the groups or some of the people who have tried to speak to Congress, and different people, who have given their testimony, it's saddening, right? That these families felt, what is it? That they did not have a choice.
That's true.
They felt like they did not have a choice. So that is a red flag. When people don't let you know that there is a choice, there's something else up here.
And use fear to try to convince you of something.
Exactly. And the coercion, right? If you don't do this, you're going to lose your job. If you don't do this, and then there's the pressure of the mass. The masses are doing it. There's people lining up to get this thing, and one, two, booster, 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 booster.
Oh,
Like
you had people saying, don't come to my house if you're
if
not.
you're not
You
vaccinated,
saw
right?
people like lose friendships. And you see it every
Families
4
broke
years with
down. Yeah.
politics too. We see it every 4 years. People that's been friends, they're no longer friends because
Yeah.
they're
This time.
polarized. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Yeah.
it was, and I think just being in the medical field, it really opened my eyes big
Yes.
time because
Yes.
even in the system, I saw a system divided.
Mm.
I saw a
Wow.
system divided. I saw a system at the brink of breakdown,
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
and it's just sad because after all that, after these healthcare heroes risk their lives going in, taking care of sick people, doing all these things, then you say, well, you'll get fired because now it's mandatory.
Yes. Yes.
And
I
many
know.
were, many choose, but many also shifted. People just
Shifted
got
into
out of it
something.
altogether. People
Yeah.
shifted their lives during that time because I think
Yeah.
it was a huge eye opening that
Yeah.
this is a system that takes and takes and takes and doesn't give anything back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
we have a lot of wounded healers. I always say that in the healthcare system, they're healers. That's their archetype, but they're wounded because they haven't put those boundaries. And
Yeah.
healers need boundaries and a lot of
Mhm.
protection,
Right. That's
So it was amazing. I really saw a system divided, and it's just unfortunate, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
people, it was a choice and you made your choice. I had people asking me what I think they should do. I say you need to research and do what's best for you and your family.
Yes. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
personally asked me what we did, then I told them.
Yeah.
But as far as advice, I said you need to do your research and do what's best for you
That's
and
for
your
your
family.
family. Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I
Because what I
remember.
was not gonna do, I was not going to I wasn't gonna force my beliefs on anyone because I think
Or
this
shame.
yeah, I think it was a time of true choice.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And
And
I think
and
you had to lean in on that, right? You
you
had
had
to
to.
kind of
Yeah.
and I
Yep.
had a dream because I went into prayer about it. I went into prayer and I was like, what is happening? What's going on? And I had a dream and the dream, it was a voice. It's always a voice telepathically told me, do not give it, do not take it and do not give it to your son.
Hmm.
And that was all I needed.
That's it.
And
That's it.
I did. I had to do a waiver, but I had that dream before it became mandatory. And
Mhm.
so I did my waiver for because I still work as needed in one of the health systems here. And I did a waiver before it even became mandatory.
Yep.
So
It's so
I
funny.
wasn't in jeopardy or anything like that because I
Yeah.
did a waiver.
Yeah.
And it
So
was
many
it was a
people.
spiritual waiver.
Yes. So many people had um insight before. Like I had in 2019, I had a dream. Also, I shared it with my family. I actually had it was actually a vision and I recorded it and I shared it, that voice note, shared it with a lot of people actually. And I said, this is what's coming. And then in 2020, my birthday is January. So in 2020, around just a little bit after my birthday is January 10th, a little bit after my birthday, a week or two, I had a very, very detailed dream
Mm,
about it. So down to the things that were inside of the vaccine. Okay. And so I shared it with people also, and I told family members like, hey, this is what it is, da 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 da, whatever. And again, the choice. You see what I'm saying? So some people were fully equipped with so much information
yeah.
and
Mm,
they still chose otherwise. And others got the information. They said, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. Now, those people who lost their jobs, they lost their jobs. Guess what? Now they're getting money back because now's the time. There are people I wrote religious exemptions for,
mm.
right? And I
I was
remember
too.
you're doing
Mm.
that. I was writing religious exemptions, and one person didn't bring it to their people and in time or whatever the case is, and so they ended up going through, and that's a whole other story. But now here in Canada, there's the government is saying if you had a religious exemption and it was not it was not, basically you were let off regardless, and it wasn't credited or whatever the case is, they're giving people back their money too also.
Wow.
So you see what I'm saying? So imagine it was almost like a test of fire in a sense, because some people lost their restaurants. They lost so much. There was so much loss. But one thing I could say, a lot of people tell me, Yandea, I lost so much during that time, but I found myself.
Yes.
I found myself. And sometimes that's what it is. You stand for yourself. You stand for your right. You're not standing just to be in rebellion. You're standing because, hey, I'm a thinker, right? This doesn't make sense. If it makes sense, I will go with it. But if it doesn't make sense, I cannot just flow with something that's not 1 + 1. What do they say? The math isn't mathing, right? So when that's not, you have to realize when something is not computing, and you don't need to be a rocket scientist. When something is just not adding up and you don't have a peace about it, that is your signal. Hey, you need to get more a second opinion, right? Or you need to just wait. You need to just pause and see what's going to happen with this thing. That's what we're talking about here when I say not thinking. I want to bring this right into the school section, okay? Because we're talking about the blinders, right? So how do you get a society of people? Because you'll realize, I think by the end of this, we'll realize it's one tool that is spread out over all the systems. It's the same old game, the same thing, because guess what? Human beings are the same. Okay? The psychological thing. So now you have a school system, whether it's in the States or it's here. People don't know that they have choice. I've been homeschooling for, how old is Mariah? I have to do the math. I've been homeschooling for over 14 years. No, wait. Mariah's turning 17. So I've been homeschooling for like 16 years now, right? And I have 5 children, right? Been homeschooling. Now, a lot of mothers, when they're like, oh, what school do your children go to? I'm like, oh no, I homeschool. And then they'll say, homeschool, right? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean homeschool, right? So I've been doing this for a long time. So in the beginning, I was literally like a black sheep. From the church to family, they were just like, you're crazy, your kids aren't going to be social, they're not going to be able to do this and that. And I was like, well, one, it was like, how much do I actually want them to be part of this this society in the first place? But I would rather give them a better start to life, right? Because I had gone through the school system and I know what that's about. So I wasn't about to put my most beloveds through that system. And I decided to homeschool. Now, a lot of people maybe did not have the negative experience that I had going to school. And a lot of people may not have been aware of what school was actually doing. A lot of people are not even aware of the fact that the main thing about school is to help you, and you guys, we're talking about the blinder. Here's the blinder. To help you to not think, to not be a critical thinker, to not be a critical thinker. So when we talk about choice, people walking into, doctor's office, hospitals, going into even the situation we just had with the vaccine, critical thinking, that is a skill that is like very rare, because all the time when you go through school, what you're being programmed to do is to know the teacher knows everything. You're a student. So even if what you're thinking, you think it might make more sense than what she's saying, you're wrong, because it's in her book, and that book has the truth about everything. This subject, you're not gonna get any ahas that we don't have in that book. And any ahas you get that are in that book, it's wrong. So this is who you listen to. And if you don't give the answer from that book, it's wrong. So school, from the time you're little, what you learn to do is listen to the teacher, memorize what she says, read that book, memorize what it says. When it's time to get tested, because I don't want, and this is the social programming, all of my peers move ahead, I will be left behind. We don't want to be left behind. We don't want to be separated from our community. And that's what children love about school, their friends. Nobody wants to be the person still in kindergarten and everybody else is in grade 1, 2, 3, right? No one wants to feel stupid, right? So children are naturally going to want to move on with their friends. To move on, you have to pass. To pass, I have to say the answers that the teacher says, that the book says. You keep going through that kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. By the time you get into high school, you are well conditioned to learn how to move with the herd, to learn how to be an employee, a great employee, so that you could fuel the economy. And you are conditioned to know, okay, well, if everybody is saying that, that must be the answer. If everybody is going there, that must be the answer. If the person, like the teacher, like the doctor, like the whoever is saying that that is truth, then that is truth. Who am I to question? Because when I've questioned before, I've either failed or I've been held back.
Yes.
I'm not going to question now. Do you see what I'm saying? So some of us realize that game, and so we opt out of it. We opt out of it from the beginning. And some of us don't, because we become, unfortunately, products of the system in a certain way until we have our awakening, until we have that awakening and we're like, holy crap, right? So
yeah, I gotta jump in
that?
here, because that, like, being a product of the system, that was me. I had my entire world shattered the day that I watched the Rockefeller documentary on YouTube. If you want to do your own research on this, like, find that, it's free, watch it, because it opened my eyes to this idea that our entire school system, as you said, is built to create, and Rockefeller is the guy who said this based on the quotes that are out there, that it's to create a system of workers, not thinkers, right? It was to benefit corporations, and it was to take our power away. And I was
just gonna say the Rockefellers funded a lot of HBCUs as well, and people don't understand that.
They did some good, but I'm just saying, like, just open your eyes to a different perspective. And I thought about it for the first time from a personal lens. And to Yande'Yah's point of this, like, I don't, it's not teachers, again, it's not principals, it's not anyone working in the school system, it's the system itself.
Yeah.
But I think back to my very first day of preschool, and I remember it like it was yesterday. There was this activity that was planned, and all the kids were supposed to do this one activity. And little me had no idea. I was like to my teacher, I want to do this instead. I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to color a picture. I want to express my creativity. Like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
You're in school now. We don't do that here. We do, everybody does the same thing. We follow along. We follow the rules. That totally broke my spirit.
Of course.
It totally broke my spirit for a little girl who was used to living on a farm and being really creative and running around outside all day, to hear that, and this concept of, well, if you don't go along with everybody else, you're going to be on your own.
That's right.
It broke my heart. And looking back, I can see that now, how there were some opportunities to become a leader, but in general, I really do feel that it was to create this mentality of kind of getting in line and following the rules, and A's and B's and C's and D, and grades. And I still have traumatic memories of something called Mad Minute, where you had to do as many math problems as you could in 30 and 60 seconds. And it was like, that was just not my strength. And it was
Man,
difficult for
that's
someone who
terrible.
thought in a different way.
That's
And
terrible.
so when I just heard about some of the ploys or plays that were utilized, it really opened my eyes to see things in a new way.
Yeah. I want to add the curriculum, okay? Because,
Oh
you
boy.
know, it's really, I definitely understand everybody's like has this herd mentality. Everybody has to move along, but it's also what the education system has taught our children. You know, I mean, history that's not history.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay? I mean, we have been deeply programmed, even, you know, when it gets down to, you know, even Black history. I mean, I have to say it. You know what I'm
Say
saying?
it,
I
girl.
have to
Say it.
say it. You
Say
know,
it.
even understanding how all of that has been just misconstrued. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
everybody didn't come to this country in the United States as slaves. Some of us
No.
were, you know,
Here already. Here
already
already.
and
Yeah.
free, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so many things that have been really miseducated in the curriculum of the education system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a big system, and we have to look at that as well. So it's
Um,
important, even with that, you know, because I always been a believer that, yeah, you know, you could send your child to school, but you need to be teaching at home. There's things that at
yeah.
home that your child needs to
Yeah.
be getting.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, and again, it is not the educator or the teacher, because I have family members that are teachers and principals and all that. It's
Yeah.
not, they have a big responsibility because they have so much disciplinary issues in the schools. I mean, we see the videos, we see these kids fighting with teachers. So is our collective responsibility. We have to teach our kids at home. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people are just sending their kids to school because they don't want to deal with them. They don't want to
Yeah.
discipline them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They
Yeah.
can't even handle them. So just go to school. Let
Yeah.
the teacher deal with it.
Yeah.
So
I
is a
agree.
collective,
Yeah.
we could, again, it's the big system, but I'm just bringing that responsibility back on to us because we created it as a collective. We
Mm-hmm.
created it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. But it's so deep because,
It's
for
so
example,
deep.
yeah, I remember I was taking my daughter to ballet and I was talking to one of the women there. And she asked me, you know, oh, what school do you go to school around here, whatever your daughter? And I said, no, I homeschool. And she was like, good for you. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, this is literally what this lady said to me. She goes, I'm so happy when I drop them off at school. And I was like, what do you mean? And then she goes, I couldn't do it. She goes, I couldn't stay with my kids all day. And I was thinking, what? So how? How do you birth a child? How are you attentive to the child? And how is it that you get to a point when you don't want your own child around you? Something has happened there. Something happened there. Someone wasn't, active in their parenting, because a child does not just get born and then go crazy. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, become uncontrollable. The child had a tantrum, maybe around 2, you ignored it. The child asked for something, you failed to be a parent. Really, I'm just talking plainly. You fail to say, no, you're not getting that. Like, I'm not trying to brag, but I am going to say there are a few things I've done wrong as a mom, but there's a lot of things I've done right. I think I've done more right than wrong. And I think that's, as a parent, that's what you want to be able to have. Have I done more things? Because we are going to mess up, because we're coming from errors ourselves with our own, how we were parented and the system and all of that stuff. But when my children, like, I remember I had one son, that same firstborn son. He had a tantrum. The day he turned 2, fell down, we're in church. I can't forget the day. He had his bottle. He put his bottle down in the middle of the pathway. I said, hey, babe, pick up your bottle. He said, no. I said, what? Never heard no before. What did you say? He said, no, I was talking to some people. I said, hold on, guys. And I went over to him and I said, pick up your bottle. And then he just dropped down on the floor. No. And I was like, I said some words, nothing was a curse word. I put some prayers on him. I put some prayers on him. I said, Nana, not my child. This is not my destiny. So I said, nope. I made him pick up the bottle. He picked it up. The next time we were in a store and we're walking and he said, can I have that? I said, no, you can't have it. And he was like, not moving. I was pushing his stroller. He didn't want to move. I said, okay, well, I'm going home. I kept walking. Quickly, he ran, no, mom, no. He didn't want me to leave him. I'm not even playing because you're two. You want candy. That's not happening. And you think you standing there is going to make me bend, and because I'm embarrassed, I'm going to buy you the candy, or because you have the wrong mother. So I just was like, I'm pushing this stroller and I'm going home. If you want to stay here, you can stay here, because with all of that, it's just not, this is not my future. He came in that stroller. That was the last. He never did that ever again. And none of the children, 4 more after him, never. I have not, apart from those 2 episodes, I never have tantrums. So I know for a fact, and I have told other parents, because I help women with homeschooling and parenting and stuff. I said, no, you have to, your child has to know that they can trust you. They have to know that. If you're a pushover, it actually, forget about being able to, it's not about dominating. They have to understand that you are the person they can trust. When a child can make you turn left or right, all that says is, I can't trust that person. So when they have more respect for the dad, because the dad, I'm just giving, right? Most families, the dad is the one who kind of puts down the boundaries, and, crying for ice cream won't break them, right? So they usually have more respect for the dad. Like, dad comes home and all of a sudden everybody's good. It's not because they fear him, they respect him. They respect him. And so children are supposed to respect and honor their mother and their father. They're supposed to know, if I'm wanting something and my mom says no, it's because it's not good for me, period.
Yeah.
If she says yes, it's good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like the lady in your example, I think her frustration probably was stemmed not from her children, probably from so many other things going on in her life, that her kids was just this, like, being projected as the source of the frustration. I also noticed this when the world went down in 2020. You had husbands, wives couldn't be in the same home, because their life was so full of go, out, get it. And they were so disconnected. And when they both were in the same home with those kids, they couldn't do it.
Nobody
We
wanted
saw a lot of relationships, a lot of divorces. We saw a lot of things that came to light because people had this, and I would say have been so inundated in this matrix, in this system, that they don't even know if they're going or coming. So it's like it's all a part of the illusion.
It's all of it. I think that now you just touched on something, because when that happened, yes, you had mom and dad home. Children aren't used to that. Mom and dad home. They usually come home from school. Maybe the parents aren't home. They're watching whatever they're watching on TV. Now all of a sudden, mom and dad are home. They can't watch what they're watching. Or all of a sudden, parenting becomes active. How come? Usually you guys aren't here. We watch what we want to watch, eat what we're eating, and then we do our homework. We're gone to bed. Now all of a sudden you're home. You're asking me about this. I don't get to watch my show. Like, things, the dynamic change. All of a sudden now you're being there. Now the husband is saying, hey, like, who's gonna make this? Who's gonna do that? Or the woman is saying, like, oh, you do it. Like, it's something that they never experienced, right? And so a lot of people realize, I can't actually live with this person. Maybe in the beginning they could have, but they've grown apart in the sense, just by their work lifestyle. And like, one person, oh, you take the kids to soccer and this on that day, I do it on, everything is so scheduled, but it's not scheduled together. It's all scheduled apart. So that time, like in 2020 and onward, it gave people a chance to really realize, like, okay, what really is family, and can we actually even have family, and what are our values, what are we really actually about? And some people realize that the person that they married is actually not the person that they thought, or that has changed or whatever. So it really was a time for, breaking down and building back. There were also a lot of babies. A lot of people I know now is just like, oh yeah, we'll have it pregnant, next one. During that time, it's like, well, people got to be together, so they got to love, and so for some people it showed the misalignment, and for others it was like, we finally get a chance to be together. And now going back after the lockdown, after whatever, we don't want our lives to be the way that it was before. We need to make a new life, a new certain way.
I think you really touched on something in terms of the plays and the ploys and the blinders, right? Keeping us so busy that we don't have time to stop and think and ask the big questions, which many of us did during that time period for the first time. I think that was one of the reasons why we had a mass awakening during 2020, 2021. Astrologically, we could talk about other things, but the idea of actually slowing down enough to say, hey, what do I want? A lot of people started asking what their purpose was in life. I know I was one of those people. I wasn't a parent yet at the time, but I was sitting there thinking, like, hey, what do I want to do with my life? And am I willing to go at this pace for the rest of my career? And to what end, for what purpose? Like, what is the higher purpose of all of this? And that's definitely part of the agenda, is keeping us so busy we don't have time to stop and even check in with ourselves, as we've been talking about, checking in with ourselves.
And I mean, talking about the checking with ourselves, because like I said, I help people with also homeschooling and stuff, right? So I make curriculums for children, like custom, you know what I mean? Depending, I do like my little interviews of the family and the child, and then I talk and ask certain questions, and I get to understand. And there are so many parents who were just like not aware of what their children were actually like doing in school. Even if they were coming home with homework, they weren't aware of like, they were kind of like, what is this foolishness? Like, why do they? I'm like, but this is what they're going through all the time, and then so you had parents realizing, like, this is actually like not cool. This is actually, I actually don't want my child to be educated this way, and so they realize you have a choice. See, like, so you can choose, because some parents now, they're continually working from home. You have a choice. Do you want to send your child back into that system, or do you want to take it into your own hands? There's options, there's tutors, you can log into at-home stuff where they still have somewhat of a curriculum for there. There's many options. They didn't even know that you could get the curriculum that the school system is like, whatever they're following. You can actually get that and have those books right at your house. I remember when with my older son, when he had gone up to grade 1, and then I realized there's way too many students in this class, because the teacher was talking about them having a hard time learning time and everything. And I'm thinking, my 3-year-old at home is reading, and the older one who's in school, how is he having a hard time? You get what I'm saying? And so when I'm at home and I'm talking to him, he understands stuff. But then when he goes to school, so I realized, no, it's that there's so many students. If everybody is not getting it, it's just, you get what I'm saying? It's like, it's a one thing. So I went in there and I said to her, I'm thinking of homeschooling my son. And she says, oh my gosh, if you can homeschool him, that would be the greatest gift a parent, that's what she told me, is the greatest gift a parent can give to a child. And I was so ready. I had all my facts, girl. I had like my paper with like all of the statistics and everything, because I thought she was going to fight me on it. And she was like, I never had to open that paper. She was just like, my neighbors homeschool and their kids are, they're so brilliant, and the kids. And so she was giving me from her own, experience, even as a teacher. And I have a sister who's a teacher also, giving me that experience, giving me her experience of how, it will be such a great thing. If I'm thinking of it, like, at least try it. Okay. Then she goes, you should speak to the principal and tell him what you have to do, because anyways, I have to be able to like sign him out. You can't just take a child out of school. It will become you'll have other people knocking on your door, right? If they're in the system, just yank them out. When I went to the principal, this man was so happy. He told me he had family members that were homeschooled. He's a big supporter of homeschooling. Your child will get this, will get that. And he turned and he said, you know what, hold on. This man went to his bookshelf and he pulled out like 5 years of curriculum for me. And he's like, here's all the stuff we teach in school. And I was like, what? He's like, it's okay, don't even worry about it. So I had 5 years worth of curriculum of what the school is teaching the kids. Like, this is what the teachers have, what they have to build their lessons and everything up. And he gave it all to me, all the tests, everything. He gave it all to me. And I was like, this is such great alignment. Now, if I didn't think I had a choice, do you get what I'm saying? If I didn't think I had a choice, then I would never experience that. And although I had my sheets with all of my facts and my rights, I never had to use it once, because I met a teacher and a principal who were honest. So right in there in that system, right, you had people who would encourage you to do, whatever that they thought was best. So you have both, right? You would find some, and that's what I'm saying. In these systems, we still have human people.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could have gone to another school and that principal might have deterred me, right? Been like, that's the worst thing you could ever do. The child needs to whatever. But luckily for me, I didn't get that, right? So they just armed me with so much. And when I would speak to people and they would say something that was negative, I would say, well, the principal and the teacher all told me this. And then they would just quiet. They're just like, oh, well, I have nothing to say, right? So this is the whole thing. When you are, like you said, Janie, not everybody can maybe homeschool their child, but taking the responsibility, speaking with your child. Hey, what did you learn today? How was school today? What did you learn? Okay, they tell you what they learned. And then see if what they learned is in alignment with the truth. Is this a factual history lesson that they're getting? You know what I mean? And really know your own history. I think some parents don't even know the truth. So this is what you have: blinders. Talk about blinders. If you have parents who've gone through a system where they've become, batteries for the economy, they become, employees, right, of the corporations that our countries are, right? Because our countries are corporations, right? And so they become employees of the corporations, which we call countries. They have children, and the children are born in the corporation. So they say, hey, you know what? You have to get a job one day like me. You have to do this like me. How did I get here? I went to school and I did. And so these children, so how can we expect parents who don't even realize what they've gone through, the psyop, they don't even realize what they've gone through, to now have the eyes to see, well, I think the answer is in being honest. Do you actually like the fact that you wake up and that you have to get up and go to a place of employment that's not paying you anything near what they should be paying you for your time and energy, that has the right to tell you when you can and can't go to the washroom, when you can and can't have lunch? If your child is sick, who you're doing all of this for, your husband, your wife, whatever the case is, your household, you can't even be there to tend to them, because if you lose that job, then what, right? And a lot of people, although they did not want to get, for example, vaccinated, they did because of that pressure of, I need to provide for my family. They couldn't see another way. Why couldn't they see another way? Because there was never a choice. Like, the only option was, I go to school and I get that job, that good job, and I have to do everything in my power to keep that job. There's no option. One last thing I want to say about this. I told my son, he wanted to go to school. And I said to him, okay, I understand. This is the social one. He's the one that's the most social. And I said, all his friends in the park, they all went to school. He's like, oh, I just want to go to school to play with them. They're all playing in school. They play different things. And this is all children talk about when they're together, is what they played at school. They're not reviewing any of the classes. At the park, it's like, this is what we did at recess. They're only talking about playing. Doesn't matter what age they get into. So I said, okay, let me ask you this question. I said, it's fine with me if you want to go, you want to have that experience, right? But let me ask you this question. Think of when you're older. Do you want to be the person who tells people when work starts and when work stops? Or do you want to be the person being told when work starts and when work stops? Which one would you rather be? I would rather be the person who tells what time work starts and when work starts. I said, oh, sounds like you want to be an employer. He says, yeah, I'd rather be an employer. I said, do you think you're going to get that way? How are you going to get there? Is the world full of more employers or employees? Employees. I said, good. So you want to be an entrepreneur. You have these skills and you want me, your loving mother, to send you to a place that's not going to honor your skills, that's going to indoctrinate you with something to be an employee. When you have a chance outside of there to hone in on all of your skills, to basically like have whatever business you want starting now. My son had a lemonade stand in the community and he hired children to work for him. Work with him. He would be there sometimes and he gave them cuts, right? You sell this much, this is how much you get off of the off of the cup of lemonade that you sold. Learning all of these skills. Right? And then he does other things now. But I'm just saying, as an example, having these, if you do not like, if you would rather be your boss, why have your child grow to just have a boss? Why not find out what is it that they can do, that they could be self-employed?
Yeah,
You
I
see what I'm
think,
saying?
yeah, I think every household do what's best for
Definitely.
you.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to come down to the level of consciousness of the parents because you can't teach your kids what you yourself don't have. And I think we just have to hold that compassion for,
Yeah.
for people because everybody don't have access to knowledge. Well, not you have access, but everybody is not knowledgeable, right? So you can only teach your kids to the level of the consciousness that you are, right? If you have a parent that's in lack, that's working, 40 hours a
Yeah.
week trying to make ends meet, they don't have time. And that's just the
Yeah.
truth because they're still in survival. And
Yes.
what the only thing I want to mention is that whether you choose to homeschool your child or send your child to, through the school system, focus on talent, focus on skill set, focus on things that they're going to need to be resilient in this world.
Yes.
At the end of the
Yes.
day, Earth is a classroom. And it doesn't matter what you do because it's still a classroom. And some of the things that you have to go through is a part of building your will, up. So you might have to be temporarily at a job because later you're gonna be,
Yeah.
the entrepreneur, but you need to
Yeah.
build that up. You got to
Yeah.
know what it
Yeah.
is to clock in and clock out
Yes.
and show up
Yes.
on time
Yes.
and be disciplined because I think what we cannot lose, especially now in this information era, is the discipline that is needed to show up in this
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
right? We have
Yeah.
all gone through, a lot in our life. I could say that I haven't gotten here by myself. It's been a long journey. As a licensed nurse practitioner, I have gone through the educational system in this country, but it is by far the best thing that I could have ever done because what it did, it took me out of a lack, coming from a
Mm-hmm.
single parent household. It got me out of survival and into abundance. And it is a skill set. It is a beautiful skill set that I have. You have to be able to do this. So I think that we have to it's not that it's bad going through the educational system. Just hone in and look at the talents and the skills that your children naturally have and bring that,
Yeah.
right? Because education is really just drawing out what's already within.
That's what it should be.
That's what
what it should be.
yeah.
Education should be that, but what's really
Exactly.
happening is that information is being forced in.
Yeah.
That's the actual thing, right?
Yeah, and I'll say that one of the because it's like the education I was given, right? But the biggest education I'll say that has really, I mean, by far was the education I gave myself.
And that's what I was going to
Which
say.
is knowledge itself, which is knowledge itself. And so if you can start helping your children with that, like I started writing down just wisdom, just a notebook full of things for my son, so that when I'm not here, he can open up that notebook and he could go to that. This is written in my mom's handwriting. This is what she say, because we can't, we won't be able to, they have to do their own journey. They have to do their own journey, and we have to allow that. But I think that we have to give them the wisdom, give them the tools, give them the things that they'll need to be resilient, to build that spirit, to build the will.
Yeah, I want to build on that because it's like, I don't know, at least once a day that I'm saying to myself, wow, I wish I would have learned that in school. Right. So we can start to, as parents, keep tabs on those things we wish we would have learned in school. Like for me, it's how to make healthy choices for my body, the foods that I eat. It's how to manage finances. It's how to manage my emotions, how to be mindful, right? Those sorts of things. But then also teaching our children how to think, not what to think.
Yes.
And I think that's more of tends to be, I'm not saying this across the board or all the time, but it tends to be more of a philosophy of like, I'm the parent or I'm the teacher and this is what to think. But how do we start to teach our children how to think for themselves?
Yes. And one thing I've learned from my son, I mean, I've always had that position that I'm not above you. I'm with you. I'm your parent and you are going to respect me, but there's so many things that my son has taught me, and I think we have to know that we're always being the teacher and the student. We just got to figure out what situation. Sometimes you're the teacher, sometimes you're the student, and that's life. Because we're all serving as teacher and the student to each other as humans, right? That's the mirroring. That's the mirroring. As they say, the teacher will appear when the student is ready.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but I think, like emotional intelligence and learning how to process your emotions and, learning how to just be resilient, not give up. You're going to experience tough times. But when tough times come, that's when you have to pull deep within your will. So I just think those are the things we have to teach our children, because whatever skill set they're gonna navigate to, they're gonna have to learn that skill. If you're gonna be a carpenter, you're gonna be a carpenter. If you're gonna be a plumber, you're gonna be a plumber. If you're gonna be a nurse, you're gonna be a nurse, lawyer, whatever. You're gonna go in that skill set. But there's some key things that no matter who you are, that you're gonna need to have to maneuver through this illusion and through this earth classroom.
Yeah. And I think it's great what you said, sis. There's so many things, because I'm so passionate about like children and their education. I think I deal with, and I'm so blessed all the time I think of it. I'm so blessed to have adult clients who come to me with their problems, because I can see, even ones older than me, wow, there is a theme here. Adults who in the wrong occupation, adults who, I don't know what my gifts are. I don't know I don't know who I am. So now you have adults who are reaching 50, 60, 70, and they could have money, they can have families, and they're saying, my soul is aching because I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm good at. They could have even their own jobs, right? They're saying, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't even know my gifts. And I don't feel like I have a connection to spirit. These people have busted their rears off. They have it. They have what the job gets them. They have what being business owners get them. But who really arrived at that place. By the time they got to that place, they're not there. They don't know who they are. So when I do my homeschooling, my curriculum, whatever I do, it's in the focus of real education, finding the intelligence inside that child, because all of our children are intelligent. Finding the intelligence inside of them, bringing that out. And then you say, okay, how do you want to give this gift to the world? How do you want to share your light with the world? Whatever that is that that child is good at, whatever they take interest in, whatever it is that they love doing, and you have to be like, hey, put that down and go to bed. Exactly. That thing that they are in it. Then you do your part in helping, and then you are able to say, you know what, she's really into this. She's thriving here. I'm going to look for tutors. I'm going to look for a school that's maybe, if this child is thriving, let's say musically, then you're going to put her in a school that's geared toward music, because now you're supporting who she is. You're supporting her own vision for her life. That's right. As parents, we're supposed to guide. But when you take those early years, when you take that precious time, like from the time they're born to, let's say, you're looking at puberty, okay? When you take those years and you push them into a system, this is without you doing your helping at home, because I understand that not everybody can homeschool their children, right? Or choose not to. So when you put them in there from between those ages, no one is having this conversation with them. No one is saying, who are you? Don't forget yourself while you go through this process. They have to use all of their memory. Yeah. Like I talked about this before. We come into this world with memory. If we don't have parents that help us remember who we are, we will forget who we are. The school system does that, and the religious system does that so perfectly by forcing us to have to retain information, most of which we will never use. So we spend all of our mind space forcing ourselves to remember things from all the grades. Remember, 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 remember. Remember why? Because I have to pass. I have to be a part of society. I have to this, I have to that. In all of that remembering, you're forgetting who you are. In all of that fitting into the culture of school, fitting into the this, fitting into... I went to an academy, right? So we wore uniform in the academy. I didn't have to worry about, what to wear, because I knew what I was wearing. I had choices, but I knew what I was wearing. However, even there, I saw, wait a minute, disconformity. I could see the positive of you not having to get caught up in the whole, what's in style and whatnot. But there was another part of it that was very cold, right? Having everybody look the same, dress the same. It was like, how do you express yourself here? How do you, if you have to sit quiet in class, if you have to, what is this really about? And I remember doing little things. I was like queen of uniform infractions. You know what I mean? Like all the time I was sitting in the office for something. My shirt wasn't buttoned up. My tie was undone. My pants were away, whatever. I had a head wrap on. Why are you wearing a head wrap? Why can't I wear a head wrap? What if I'm Muslim? You know what I mean? I would have these conversations just to push it. This is what I was doing in school. I was figuring out why can't you tell me, if I'm here to learn, what does me having a head wrap on my head, how does that stop me from learning? Make your policy make sense. So this can't really actually be about me learning. If my head wrap is stopping no one and it's not stopping me, why? Do you get what I'm saying? So I would literally, this is how I was able to grow my mind. I actually went to school to have more so discussions with the teachers about stuff that they weren't even teaching. So we clashed, but it was like, okay, I went to the library, I got all these books, and I wrote my essay, and my essay disproves what you just taught in class. Why am I not going to get perfect on this? You just learned stuff that you did not know from my essay. Why are you not marking this right? You write your essay as to why my essay is wrong. You tell me why this is wrong, but you can't. So that's the kind of child, and I know some people might be like, you're terrible, but my point is that if you can, why are we having people be teachers that are not going to stop and have honest discussions with our children, who are not going to uplift them, who are not going to bring the best out of them. If you're expecting that you're going to send your child to a place and that's going to happen, you're totally mistaken. You're going to have to do that. You as mom, you as dad, auntie, uncle, whoever it is, if you love these children, you're going to have to carve out the time in your life to make sure that they are not forgetting who they are, to make sure they're not forgetting their dreams, to make sure that they feel uplifted, encouraged, that they can actually have the life that they want to have. Some children say, Mom, I want to be a this. And it's like, no, I don't think you could be that. Right?
Yeah,
So
I don't think that's, I never think, and I tell my son this, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can't do, not even me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
think you should tell anybody what they can't do, child or adult, because
Yeah.
I mean, who are we to even to say that, whether you're the parent or
Yeah.
not? I
Yeah.
think it also speaks to be in this world, but not of the world, and be in the system, but not of the system. Because
Of the
one
system. Yeah.
thing there's ways to crack this system. And I think a part of it is being in it, but not of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we maneuver. And then you have to learn to create your own tribe, your own communities of like minds, because
Yeah.
the system is also set up for a bunch of tests. It's to keep you
Yeah.
off course, is to distract you, is to
Yeah.
stop you from reaching, what you're here to reach, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So and when you think about it, it's like, well, and I think where a lot of people go wrong, or I've seen it, and then they get somehow they get attacked, right? Is that they try to go in the system and break the system. No, you're gonna get smuggled. You're gonna get smuggled in that system. You have to just create your own. And I
Yeah.
think we always want to go in somebody else's system and change
Just
it.
make your
No,
own. Yeah.
just make your own
Again, sis, making our own system, what it does is that it gives people choice.
choice.
Because a lot of people say, well, I can't homeschool my child, but everything else is a very expensive private school or this or that. Like, what are my options? I can only afford this. And so I'm going to do the best. I want to say, I had some great teachers. So I had some good teachers along the way. I have to say it because I love them. And contrast, in grade 7, I had this one man. He saw my artwork. He loved it, right? Watch this story. He loved the artwork. I was getting the art award that year. He put my artwork, it was in the middle of the foyer when you enter the school. He hung it upside down. There's a whole story to that. I said, hey, sir, my artwork is upside down. And he was like, oh, what does it mean? I was like, oh, this is of a vision I got. So now this is the spiritual, right? So I was so young, but I was like, oh, I had this vision and I saw this and I saw that. So that's what this is. But you had it upside down. And look, I have words written. And he's like, he didn't even realize there were words written on it. And when I ended up sharing what the vision was, he was like, okay, well, we can't hang it up if it's that. We could hang it upside down though, if you say it's this. And I was like, no, it's that. Like, this is like one of my first prophetic visions. And so right there, I had to make a decision. Do you sell out? You get what I'm saying? Do you sell out just to get the award? And I remember I said, no, God showed me this, and this is what the vision is. And at least my whole class was there to hear what the vision was. And so they understood what I was saying. And I didn't get the art award. It stayed down. He chose another guy who was drawing Superman. He put that guy up.
And you know what? That's okay.
That was it.
Because I've had to make tough decisions. Tough decisions to stay authentic to who I am. And to be,
but in high school, I had this other teacher. This is grade 9. I had this other art teacher, and she was like, your work is really good. You're really amazing. She boosted me up, right? And then way later on, I was at a university art program, and the man there who sells like $1 million art stuff, he came to me and he was like in this whole auditorium of art students. And he goes, if anybody's going to make it in there, it's that girl. And I was like, these people all went to school for art. I was like home with my kids and I just got into the program. And he goes, it's that girl, because her stuff doesn't look like anybody else's. Because I missed out on the art programming where everybody's trying to draw their stuff to look like this one and that one. It was just all coming from me, right? But again, I got someone who obviously knows about art and selling art to say, so I was along the way, I got my boost, but they came from people who were in the system, right? And who knew about art, right? To help me because, you know, everybody could say whatever they say, right? So I'm trying to make it known here that if you're going to be in the system, if you're going to be a teacher, if you can't just come out here and open your own school, be a teacher that can affect a child's life in a positive way, more than just giving them what's out of your book. Help that child see their gifts, their talent, and encourage them to say, you know what, if you keep working at this thing, I think you're going to be a great person. I think you can really do amazing. Don't give up. Even if people tell you, don't give up. So whether you're in the system or out the system, you can be effective. You can be effective in that sense. And that goes across the board. A medical person, you know what I mean? A teacher, a mechanic, right? You could choose to be an honest mechanic and help that person with their vehicle and really let them know, like, by the way, whenever you know what I mean, at a light, maybe do this or that instead of what you're doing. If you realize why their brakes are you know, grinding and finishing up so quickly, there's things like we just have to come back to this golden rule of do to others as we would like others to do unto ourselves. It's that golden rule. You know what I mean, Kes?
I think that's beautiful, Yandea, because I think it even goes beyond the roles that we play. As you mentioned, many of us are walking around as adults, not knowing what our gifts are or what our purpose is, but we see people that we interact with every day, whether it's someone who's checking us out at the grocery store, even though a lot of it's self-checkout nowadays, but back when that used to happen, right? Or a doctor that we work with, or someone we sit by on the bus, whatever it is, like we interact with people's energy and we can often see things in people that they don't see in themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like the more we can reflect that for people, the more we can all find our way back home, because we could speak all day and all night about all the ways that we've been blinded to our own light and our own strengths and our own gifts. So there's a saying that goes, we're all just walking one another home. And in that sense, I think we are.
Yeah. One thing me and my husband say is that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's what we teach our children, because how I wash the dishes, if I'm going to wash the dishes with presence, with awareness, making sure they're really clean, they're really dry, is how I'm going to do everything. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. If am I going to rush and just make my bed and it's, you know, the pillow's not there, one across the room. So it's being aware, it's being conscious, is being present moment by moment with every person you interact with, and choosing in this moment, how am I going to exchange love or how am I going to hold back? That's really what it comes down to. And it is our responsibility. When I came into this understanding and to this awakening, it was so important for me to understand that, wow, I have a huge responsibility and I don't take it lightly.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, every thought, every word, every action, every single one. Like that is my responsibility. What am I putting out into this world? How I do one thing is how I do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. And I feel like, you know, we can go into, like we said, like there's so many other plots and tricks. Obviously, religion is a huge one. And I think whether you whether you've been, you know, whether you've gone through being like, you know, a family that was extremely religious, or in your older years you got into it, or whatever the case is. But I think at the end of the day, the whole thing is, even down to religion, it's this, having people believe that the power is outside themselves.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The blinder.
That's
the
it.
blinder is having you believe that, one, you don't have a choice, and that the power is outside yourself, and that if you choose outside of yourself, you will be blessed. If you choose outside of yourself, you will be healthy. If you choose outside of yourself, you will do well in life. Do you see what I'm saying? In all of those areas, in the medical field, if you choose outside yourself, not what your intuition is telling you, not hey, get a second opinion, not if you choose outside yourself, you will be healthy, you will be fine, right? In school, if you choose outside yourself, you'll have a good life, right? Don't worry about your gifts and talents. It's so sad. Like, I think of this wonderful man, this guy's like a genius, and he says to me, do you have goats? Because I have the farm, right? Do you have goats? Oh, I so much wanted to have goats, that's my dream. And this man has been everything. He I can't even go into all of what he does, and he like amazing, right? But guess what? He is like 70, almost 70 years old, and his dream, he's like, I have to let go of it. I have to let go of it. Look at my age now. And I was so sad because I'm like, I admire this man. And he finally opened up and he told me, what his dream was. And he says, you gotta do it. You gotta get your son to do it. And I'm thinking, to go through your whole life, getting all of these accolades. One of his daughters is a surgeon, another one is a high lawyer. And you've done so well. You've provided your children with what they want to do and what they want to be. And you yourself, that little farm to raise sheep or goats to do what you want to do, you will have to let go of that. And I just felt so sorry, because he's like, maybe we have another chance at life. Guys, do you? You know what I'm saying? Like, going through life and saying, well, I'm just going to keep doing this, even if it's not in alignment with my heart's desire, even if it's not the type of, listen, not everybody wants a dream life to be, a 10-bedroom mansion and 5 cars. Like, some of us just want a loving community, a house with enough rooms, a little backyard, front yard, maybe animals, I don't know, maybe just the ability to be financially free. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think at the heart of it, what we all want, though, is love. We want to be able to feel like we're living a life where we're surrounded by love, we're giving love, receiving love, and we're in an environment that we really want to be in. Whether it's nature, if you want to retire downtown in a condo so you can be about that nightlife, doesn't matter. So just make sure that the decisions you're making now are actually lined up to bring you to where you want to be. Because what the blinders do is the blinders stop you from seeing your very present. The blinders cause you to not feel yourself, not hear yourself, not give any weight to what spirit is actually saying within you, and to put all of that on the thing outside of you, right? The God outside of you, the whoever it is outside of you. All of the power is to the outside of you. But when you bring back and say, you know what? No, I'm sovereign. I don't know everything, but I can think, I can research, I can ask questions.
Yeah.
I can listen to that. I could follow that compass within, that peace within. If something doesn't sit right, I can take another day to ponder about it. You get what I'm saying? I could ask a friend. Not all friends. There's a special friend. We all have that special friend that's like a critical thinker. Everybody has one friend in their life that could give you the other perspective. You know what I'm saying? Don't just look to people who will tell you what you want to hear, right? Be okay with having an opposing perspective and really listen to that and wait. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
I want to
Blinders, man. It's a serious.
I wanted to mention about religion, that I think it really contributes to how I think humans see themselves, is that we were born in sin and that we needed to be redeemed. And I think when you just sit with that, I'm born in sin. And I come here and I'm working to to get out of that sin and to redeem myself and to work and to perform and to do all the things to redeem myself because I was born in sin.
Yeah.
We all have children.
Yeah.
My child was not born in sin, and neither was I. And that is the psychological bondage and also the soul bondage.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I speak on that?
And blinder, like blind. And I think if as a child you're told that, you're heard that in religion, you have this lack. You have this deep lack in you already. And I see it in so many religious people. They have this lack in them, and it's like they're searching for it. They're searching, but they can't understand where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say something to that, sis, and maybe this is, I know we're on here, but you just said something and I just have to. When you say, because I've been through, you guys know my story, I've been in the religious thing hardcore. And the thing about it is, it's not until I really started listening to the Holy Spirit or the voice of God within me. And I said, okay, I know what I'm reading here, but what does it mean, Most High? What does this actually really mean? Don't give me the doctrines, don't give me anything. If this was really said, what does this actually mean? So again, very happy now to have experienced what I experienced. I had that understanding here. But when I crossed over to the other side and I saw what love was, what love is, it just, that exact one that you said there, it brought it way back. And I'm going to tell you what I know. Born in sin. The sin that we are born in is an awareness that we are outside of God. That is the sin. Because what? God is love. And if you think that you are outside of God's love, if you think that you are outside of love, outside of God, then you are in sin. Because think of it, all the commandments are to obey God, and all the commandments are love, right? All the commandments are love. I'm not telling you what people have told you about the commandments. If you think of a loving parent telling you, hey, you probably shouldn't sleep with that guy's wife. Hey, you probably shouldn't steal, right? You probably shouldn't kill. You probably shouldn't this and that. You should honor your parents. If you look at the spirit of the law, not the letter, not what they've taught you it means, the spirit of it, right? Like any parent giving good advice to their child, the spirit of the law is love. God is spirit. Spirit is love. I saw this on the other side. I know it for a fact. So if God is love and God is spirit, God is truth, God is life, God is light, God is all of that. If you come into a system that is purposefully teaching you, you are not love, you are not light, you are not spirit, you are not truth. Therefore, now, what does that make you? That makes you sin. If you believe that programming, it means now that you are sinful, because to not be sinful is to be in God. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or should I say it another way? Because to be in alignment with God is to be in love, is to be upright, it's to be right standing. So if someone could convince you that you are not here, center with God, and that's what all the programming is to do that, then you will see yourself as someone in sin who needs redeeming. And that is what that system has, for thousands of years, has been trying to, change people's minds, give them a new mindset. Now, here's the beautiful thing. When you read that Yeshua came into this earth, the Son of God came into this earth to redeem you from your sin. If you're outside of God and outside of God is sinful, what did Yeshua come to do? Then that means Yeshua came to bring you back into alignment with that original understanding, which is that what? God is in you. And there are so many scriptures where Yeshua is talking about, I and the Father are one. I am in you, you are in me. This oneness, this oneness, this oneness. Pray, ask. God is in you. You are in me. Do you understand? This is the whole revelation of Yeshua, is to bring us back to the truth that we are the children of God, that we are in God, that no good thing that we want or ask or need will God withhold from us. Do you get what I'm saying? But people would want you to understand that a different way. We are supposed to remember who we are. We are love. We are light. We are truth. We are life. That is who we are. We are not just these bodies. So the blinders, now we're going to end it up. The blinder is to help you forget who you are. That is what these systems are about. They're about helping you to forget who you are. You can't just be healed on these plans that God has made for you. You can't just be healed by taking control of your diet and not being gluttonous and not putting things into your body, like loving the temple that the Spirit lives in and caring for it, like the place that God dwells. That's not going to work. Do you get what I'm saying? The whole thing is to help you forget who you are. The whole thing is to help you be in sin. That's what it's all about. So whether it's doesn't matter which way you want to look at it, we have to come back to the place to remember who we are. Remember the power that we have. We have free will. If we have free will, it means we have choice. Free will is a gift. Anytime someone says you have no choice, they're lying. You have to know that they're lying. There is another way. Go within and ask, what are my options? What is another way? If you know that the thing in front of you is not right, I'm telling you, there is another option. You just have to open up yourself to see the other door, right? Someone will come. Spirit always does. We'll send someone. We'll send the answer. That's what have you guys experienced anything different in your life? When you said, I know this doesn't sit right with me, has the answer not come to you or shown up in some way? The alternative?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Always, always. So guys, I want to read some comments here. We have Russell said quite a few things, beautiful things. So just going back, he said, John D. Rockefeller, who founded the General Education Board, once said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers.
Thank you for quoting that directly.
Yes.
I paraphrase that. Yes.
And that's why I said, before you move on, that he was a big funder of a lot of the HBCUs, historically Black colleges, so that they could be workers.
Workers, not
And that
thinkers.
he
Yes.
funds the curriculum.
Exactly.
So when you see all that, it comes full circle.
Definitely.
As well as
Blinders.
other industries. It's not just education. There's others
All these
connected
other
as well.
industries. Yes.
Yeah.
And it says John's wife, Laura Spelman Rockefeller, is who Spelman College is named after. They were major financiers. When trades were being taught in public schools, trades were the best thing, I swear. When trades were being taught in public schools, many thrived independently and in the workforce. That is why they took it away. Social engineering is real. At the end of the day, we all want our children to be amazing human beings, be the best versions of themselves. And then he says, you all are nailing it. Sin equals living outside of the laws of nature and God. That's it. That's it. That's it. So let us bring ourselves back, right? Let us remember who we are. Let us gather ourselves. Let us remember, gather, remember. The members, okay? Gather all the members. Let us remember. Let us gather ourselves, realize we have the power, right? Your power has to be given away. And you do that when you let somebody else be the deciding person for you. Get all your facts, get everything, and then you decide, and then you deal with the repercussions of your decision. But don't just throw your power. Don't just give your power to anybody and anybody. Remember the little ones, remember the children. You know, tell them something, search for it within them, help them discover their glory, help them discover their skills and their gifts, you know, and give them something that you did not get from this system. Give them something that you did not get from this world. Don't wait for somebody else to give it to them. You be the one to give it to them. You know, whether you're watching this, you don't have to be a parent. The next child, the next person that you see, if it's possible, mirror for them. Be a mirror. Be someone who can show them something about themselves that's beautiful. Maybe that they can't see because they've gone through the system. Maybe they've forgotten themselves, right? Sounds good?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So this is, I think we're going to conclude here. And our next episode will be next Sunday. And now we are going to dive into the divine feminine. Am I right, ladies? I believe our next episode number 4, is about the feminine. And let me see. That one is, want to make sure it's episode number 4. Yeah, the rise of the divine feminine. She remembers not to rule, but to restore. Reclaim wisdom, emotion, and technology, soft power. That's right. So we're going to get into the divine feminine. What is the divine feminine? And what does the rise of her power look like? There's a lot of crazy stuff being said right now about what the divine feminine is. A lot of people fear the divine feminine. And so that fear is causing them to, well, the fear is not causing them because you have to choose to react or respond. But that fear, because of that fear, they are now saying very negative things. You know, people talk a lot of negative things when they don't understand something. So we're going to talk next Sunday at this time, 7:30. We're going to meet again, and we're going to talk about the divine feminine and the rise of the divine feminine, what that means, what it looks like, and will you be a part of it, right? So we have some good things to share, and we will see you guys again. If you would like to join us, if you would like to, you know, be a part in any way, please send an email to lovestoryforyandea@gmail.com. That's lovestoryforyandea@gmail.com. The information for my beautiful sisters and myself will be down below if you want to connect with any of them. I think I have the Linktree link for both of them. So just copy, paste, or click on it, however it works, and you will be able to, you'll be guided to them. Okay. Looking forward to seeing you all next week at 7:30 on Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.